There was some breaking news this afternoon. This is the least surprising thing ever. For someone who's a lifelong Miami Hurricane fan going back to the 80s, the fact that Miami has become the first school to receive an NIL infraction from the NCAA, least surprising thing ever. And
Yeah.
when John brought up Jaden Rashada, it reminded me that, okay, so in Jaden Rashada's case, the young man was allegedly offered $13.85 million from the Gator Collective, only for them to rug pull that from him. And then somehow Miami, because John Ruiz invited the Cavinder Twins to his house for dinner, somehow Miami gets the first infraction. I mean, it's crazy. Like, and maybe there are other ongoing investigations. So there's some bad news and some good news, John, based on what we know about, Miami's involvement in this. First of all, the penalties are really not very severe.
Right.
And I feel bad that Katie Meier gets in a little bit of trouble for this, because I've known Katie for 20 years, the women's basketball coach, and like, she would never knowingly violate any rules. And so unfortunately, I think that she was being held responsible for this. But there's no way she knew that these were violations happening. I will stand up for Katie all day, every day. So Adam Lichtenstein from the Sun Sentinel tweeted, Hurricanes women's basketball coach Katie Meier violated NCAA rules by facilitating impermissible contact between two prospects and a booster. Those are the Cavinder Twins and John Ruiz. The Hurricanes women's basketball team is put on probation for 1 year. The program is fined and more. And also, it turns out it's not just the women's basketball team on probation. The Miami Athletic Department is on probation, which doesn't sound good. But then on the flip side of that, John, apparently, and this was detailed in Miami's statement, so they reached this settlement on this penalty with the NCAA. And according to Miami's statement, the entire athletic department was investigated, and the only violation that was found was that dinner that the Cavinder Twins had at John Ruiz's house, where his mistake was posting a picture of that dinner. Don't do that again.
Yeah. Not surprised that Ruiz was attached to this as a target. He's opened himself up to that, and he knows that. So naturally, I do understand why so much attention was put into that side of the coin. But yeah, if the entire department was investigated, including football, including men's basketball, which were more kind of lightning rod relative to Ruiz at different points in the offseason, I do think that's good news for the athletic department as a whole. But yeah, look, it's the NCAA, it's Miami. It's nothing is surprising when those two get linked up together in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, not surprised it started at Miami. Won't be the last time, unfortunately. But look, it's the new era, right? We're all still figuring this thing out. And all this legislation has started to change already with NIL. So I do think it's going to be tough for the NCAA to now retroactively make punishments when certain elements of the NIL angle are already changed from when NIL began, I believe in July of 2021. Less than 2 years in, so many changes have already happened. So it's going to be hard to go back and retroactively punish at this point. So I do think the slap on the wrist, for lack of a better term, at Miami is some interesting precedent for everybody else, because I think it's always going to be hard to police, which was all the negative attention that NIL has created in that regard. How do you monitor it? I do think this pushes that narrative even more so, because now how do you punish something that isn't legal or wasn't legal at one point, but is at this point? So I do think that part of it will keep it as slippery a slope as NIL has been basically from the beginning. So we've made moves and there have been rulings, but I don't think much has changed perceptionally with NIL or John Ruiz for that matter. He's already kind of shrugging it off publicly, as one would imagine.
Well, and maybe like the lesson to be learned here is just don't post the photo next time. It's like, because I know, because when you hear, and John, you and I have both heard these stories over the years about how before the era of NIL, the bags being dropped at people's doors allegedly and all that. But if you work in silence, you tend to get away with more things. And even in the age of NIL, when you can do a lot of this stuff legally, because it's within the rules now, you still have to be careful about the timing, and maybe don't go out of your way to post the pictures next time.
Right. Well, look, now that the NIL groups can work with the schools in the state of Florida, this is something that will create another layer of correspondence, just to make sure, hey, this is what's planned. Is this cool? Yes. Oh, okay. This isn't cool. Let me not do it. So yeah, I do think again, it's something that could have easily been avoided. But it's murky, right? All of this has been murky the entire time. So I expect none of it really going forward, because now the communication is totally wide open between the university and folks like John Ruiz. So you understand if it's a lot more careful going forward.